Oh my god, it is really freaking hot. So I'm sorry about the audio quality if you hear the AC come on. Hey, what's happening guys? Mike Mo here. This is a quick little video about my thoughts about the Movi FreeFly, which is right over here, and my thoughts of using it after a couple of months. All right, let's get this out of the way. There are a lot of reviews out there, and as you can probably tell, this is easily one of the best counter gimbals and counterweight systems available on the market today. It comes at a hefty price though, because the main unit is $300, and if you're going to use additional accessory lenses, which you probably should if you're going to be investing this much into a nice gimbal for your smartphone, you're going to have to go ahead and add the counterweight, which is set about $69.99. And if you want to get really serious about audio, you're probably going to want to do an external microphone thing, and or get their accessory thing that they affectionately call the hoodie at $29.99. So now you're looking at around $400 for this whole setup, $400 plus tax. But what you get is what I believe is the best, at least for most people, gimbal system for your smartphone and smart devices. The truly easier way to get cinematic type footage. Now, how can I tell about that is that some of the stuff that I have been recording and producing and sharing on YouTube, I've got some feedback from some of my friends and users going, hey Mike, what kind of camera did you use? Why does it look so professional? And you know, they'll look in my descriptions and they'll see that I used a gimbal to basically stabilize all the shots going forward. My setup, of course, is like this for $400, plus you got to add on a Moment case if you want the best quality. So I use it with the Moment case for the iPhone 10, which is about $30 starting, plus the wide angle lens, which is another $100. So now I'm about $500 some into the whole system with the Movi. So that's really something you need to consider. Versus if you're going for some other thing as cheap as, and the cheapest that I found was actually the Smooth Q, which really doesn't give you a whole lot of options. It's super cheap, and it's fairly simple, also simplistic and stuff to go ahead and set up, but then at the same time will not be able to support without additional hacking or jury rigging any counterweights to get it working. So this works fine on somewhat of a naked smartphone system, but if you want to add on any cinematic lenses, filters, etc., something as cheap as $89 probably won't do it for you. Now, this part is the part I want to talk about some bad things. So you already heard that I told you that this is probably the best out there for most people. Now, some negatives as I was using it over the past few months. One, the counterweight is basically a must-have if I'm using my Moment lenses. Right? You got to put on the counterweights so it makes this weigh a little bit more. Second thing is there's no locking mechanism. So this part locks like so, right? But there's no locking mechanism for this piece. So this kind of could dangle around, could potentially damage your gimbal if you don't remove it. And if you do remove it and you store it, then you got to unscrew these things, and you could lose these screws. And so they sell these separately in case you lose them, because you're likely to lose them. If you unscrew these and put them somewhere in a field in a bag, I know I've lost some screws before, so I generally just leave them attached like this. But if you leave this attached, now look at this. This is now a free moving weight system that potentially in your bag will bang up against this whole down piece here. So this bottom piece could get damaged or get scratched up, etc. I'm not sure about the durability of this whole unit yet, right? So that's one negative. But as you can see, this fits in pretty compact versus my other system that I also use for Moment lenses, which is right over here. And this is the DJI Osmo with the M1 head, which basically also has the attached Moment counterweight here to use with the Moment lenses. This, of course, fits very differently than this unit. So if anything, if I'm still traveling, I'd still rather prefer bringing this, but just keep in mind that the weight goes up and so does the banging of the unit there. So it does not make it as simple to travel when you're going to be using additional external accessories. Second major thing that I had was over the course of my weeks using this, I was recording a really long complete session. I guess I didn't really have to, but I was doing an extended recording of 30 minutes or so, right? Everything went well until I pressed the record button to stop the recording. So here's what happened. It failed to transfer that recording to my iPhone photo video library. It just straight up failed. There's no recovering from that at all. There's no backup recording, nothing. Just completely 100% lost. And I'm running the latest software that the Movi system runs, has been released. So what I'm saying is this, is that this might be on a professional level all the way up to a certain point. As professional as a smartphone recording can be, and which obviously can be because, you know, lately there was actually a movie that was entirely recorded on the iPhone that was in the theaters. I believe it was by Mr. Soderbergh or something like that. So you can definitely do professional cinematic stuff with these, obviously, but if you were recording a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, let's say at a wedding, you're trying to use this professionally somewhere and be somewhat discreet, and you lose that footage, it's just gone forever. Okay, so keep in mind that this is a version 1.0 product. In fact, this was just released over, earlier this year, and only just real recently, within this past month or two, was more available to the general public to go ahead and order. Okay, so I lost all of it, and there's no way in coming back. And that was a big bummer, and just basically another, just kind of a slap in the face to remind you that this, as professional as it is, in the whole setup with my iPhone 10, things can still go wrong, and they, you know, sooner or later they will go wrong. So what I've done to reduce the risks of that is that if there's ever a possibility during the recording, I would just go ahead and stop the recording, restart again, because when you stop the recording, it transfers the footage safely to your iPhone. Basically, iPhone video library, right? So there's less likely that you will lose any video footage. All right. Now, another major issue that I had with this was that, you know, these counterweights, you need to use them if you're going to be using external lenses. But sometimes I like to record without attaching lenses. So what do? Well, now you got to remove 3 screws. One here, unhook that, remove this counterweight thing, remove that, and then basically you're back to a naked setup, which is probably the most portable and easy-going way to do it. But then if you want to go ahead and zoom in on something, let's say I'm using the iPhone 10, which is what I'm using, or an iPhone 8 Plus or 7 Plus or whatever. The software doesn't currently allow you to go ahead and zoom in and utilize the secondary lens of your smartphone right now. So that was a bit of a bummer. So if I'm stuck using the wide angle and I want the really wide, but I just want to zoom in a little bit, I can't really do that except maybe in post. If anything, it would just end up being a digital zoom. So that's a bit negative to me on that point too. And just keep in mind, again, this is, again, a 1.0 product. So eventually they're going to add these features on, and, you know, with each software update. And I will say this, is that I do believe in Movi, the company. They are definitely know what they're doing. They've designed this with a lot of great things in mind. And I'll just say another thing about this is that this is the most secure that I have been able to hold a gimbal for a smartphone ever, because most of them are all designed stick-based, right? You got 1 point or 2 points maybe if the stick is long enough. But this right here, with my left hand, my right hand right here, has proven to be super stable and comfortable. And because this whole system setup like this is pretty lightweight, it's been my favorite gimbal to use since I've had it for a couple weeks. All right. One other thing that I should really mention is that the battery system, you know, you could just buy third-party batteries to use it with them, so it's not locked. And I love that because you can easily buy these yourselves. You don't have to pay an extra tax like you got to do for DJI products. All right, so this will easily last several hours of recording, no problem, and you can easily quick charge that through the USB-C. So I like that. What I don't like is that the battery life varies tremendously depending on how you're using it. So you can't really exactly count on this lasting like 3 or 4 hours unless you really know, what kind of external lenses and accessories you're going to be using, how much movement you're going to be doing. So at least they have this right here. But this, for whatever reason, this has to stay lit. So if I'm in a dark environment, this kind of just screams out and just basically ruins the moment necessarily sometimes for some other people around this. I cover it. So some quick gaffer's tape was something that I needed to use because this ends up showing pretty brightly in a really dark room. So that's one other minor gripe on there. Maybe it's something that you can easily fix in software. But overall, I really, really like it with the exception of the few things that I mentioned about and the price, of course. I can heartily recommend getting the Movi FreeFly, and if anything, they're just going to be able to improve it further on. One final thing you need to know: if you bought one of these or you got one of these models that are really, really early production units, there are a bit of a number of issues with the mount down here and how that mounts and how it might affect the motors. But Movi, they said, hey, just contact their support line, they'll take care of you. And I really believe that they will. Okay, so you kind of get what you pay for in all those respects. So that's it for my quick review after using this for a couple of weeks for a good part of my outdoor shooting with my iPhone. Is this going to be the best for you? That's difficult to say. I think it's the best for most people. It does not have any active face tracking or object tracking. That could be coming in the future. It's probably somewhere on the roadmap, but if you need that, right now I'd probably just say, hey, just save some money and go with the Osmo 2 Mobile or Osmo Mobile 2 and get the specific set of counterweights from Moment if you want to be a little bit more cinematic. But for the range of movements, the prices, the features that you can do, there are way more features in shooting modes than I've even cared to want to try or shoot with this. I just basically like to keep it in majestic mode, which is the mode that basically captures just about everything that you want to do with it without being able to do any active tracking. And the active tracking is just such that, on your smartphone, you could just put a circle around something and it will automatically track and follow that. This can't really do that right now, but it could be in the future. All right, so that's it for this quick video, somewhat quick video. It's 12 minutes long. If you have any questions, feel free to note them down below. But if you have any really specific questions, Movi is really great about answering them for everybody. I haven't actually had to ask them any questions because they have a whole training series on how to use their products from beginning to end, including setting up the counterweights, which is always a pain, which is why I didn't put a huge con on it, because setting up counterweights is usually a pain for any gimbal system, with the very exception of the counterweights that are designed for very specific purposes, not this one. I was actually meant to pick up my DJI Osmo Mobile 2 and the Moment counterweight. So I'm not putting that as a major con. All right, please like this video, subscribe for more. Thank you very much for watching and all your support. I will catch you in the next one.
Sit down and talk about the world. I thought, what if the 747 goes down right in a big neighborhood? Because it's just something you don't see.
Well, you are seeing it right now, folks. This is it. This is the actual set from War of the Worlds. While we're stopped here for a moment, it's okay to stand up and take pictures if you like. You see, this is one of the largest, most expensive movie sets in film history. Mainly because you see that and that and that. That's a real 747 that was purchased in one piece, then torn apart and destroyed just for this movie. Other directors use miniatures. Steven Spielberg, he's another matter entirely. Okay, everybody, please take your seats. We're about 10 minutes from the end of the tour and our return to the theme park, remain seated, but if you need my attention, pull the cord. Now, as we come to the end of this little street here, I'd like everybody to look to the right, and behind you, you're going to see the largest freestanding backdrop in Hollywood. Area out in front, when we fill it with water, we can do storms at sea there. In the movie Sully, that's where we had the airplane shot.